All right, welcome back to Sorry If I Spit When I
When I
Speak.
speak,
Yeah.
I am Daniel McDuck.
My
husband
John Sheeran. Yeah.
John
Yeah.
Sheeran.
All
I am
right.
Daniel McDuck.
You are not. I am. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Look.
I'm just pumped.
Yeah, I know. It's very exciting. You know why it's exciting, guys? Because the best player in the last, I don't know, decade for the Cincinnati Bengals is back.
Yeah,
He's
the
back.
vet.
He's back.
Yeah.
AJ Green. He is
AJ
back.
Green.
And let me tell you something. He's not just back. He's better than ever. I mean, listen to some of the things coming out of camp. And I know, John, I know. They're not in pads. They're not going full speed.
Yeah.
It's too early. I know, John. I know. But look at this. First of all, CJ Uzama had to explain to Drew Sample, and I don't have the exact quote, but basically, Drew Sample was like, "What is that?" He's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "That's human. Is that a human being? Is that a machine? Is that a Terminator? What is that thing I am seeing jumping and leaping and catching things and running so fast?" He said, "You forgot because you didn't play with him much last year, but that is AJ Green.
That is AJ Green, the famous.
Yeah.
The legend.
Yeah, and he said, "Oh, I forgot how explosive he is." And he says, "You haven't seen the half of it." This was a real conversation between Drew Sample and CJ Uzama. Yeah, go ahead.
With great hyperbole interjected in there. And John, we were talking about earlier, I mean, we might see a whole new AJ Green. This might be an AJ Green we've never seen before because AJ Green was playing in a certain way, expecting the ball to be thrown to him by an Andy Dalton.
Well,
but now
not thrown to him, but thrown when he is open and then
in his vicinity. But now he's going to expect much more. I mean, we can expect, balls being thrown to him on the fly, on the run, weirder thing. Tell me, John. Stop bottling it in. Let it go, man. Release it, John.
Yeah, it's not healthy psychologically. Just let it go.
It's not healthy. Don't hold it all in.
Let it off your chest, John.
Let it all in.
You're getting angrier and angrier. Please,
John.
I think it says something when people talk about not being able to judge a player's full potential in an unfair situation. And I kind of disagree with that. That's an argument that's being made with Joe Mixon right now. And it's an argument that can be made with AJ Green as well. For the past 9 years, he's had to play with a quarterback that is not very accurate down the field. And he always pretty much forced the ball towards him, whether he was double or single covered. And then AJ Green had to adjust to that, and he became and developed the player that we've all seen today as a guy who's capable of making the most spectacular catches in the entire National Football League, a guy who's very effective, very efficient in turning yards and turning routes into yardage gain. Yeah. And I think now that's how you evaluate AJ Green, as a guy who could make something out of something that's out of a very subpar and average quarterback. If you give him an above average quarterback with above average arm, talent, and timing, then you're going to see a more effective, more consistent AJ Green, who doesn't have to do all the spectacular things that make him AJ Green. But in terms of production and therefore recognition, you might see that increase as long as AJ Green remains the same receiver that he's been for the past decade.
Yeah, John, I don't want to disagree with you, anything you said, because I love all of it.
Okay. But I didn't understand it.
Well, I didn't understand it. So I'm going to add
high level.
John, you talked about someone who can, get the ball to in better spots and all that. Let me add something. The thing about Burrow, it's not just that he has more arm talent; he's more accurate.
That is the arm talent, though.
That's not just it, John. You have to listen.
No, that's not just it. Listen,
that's not it.
Because he's about to say something.
I'm saying, John. It's also that.
It's also something else.
He makes things out of nothing. So we know with Dalton, he gets the ball out about as fast as anybody, right? 2 point whatever seconds, right? That's like his average. If a play breaks down, the play is lost. With Burrow, that is not the case. So you have those added opportunities when he is escaping pressure, when he is making something out of nothing. And to be honest with you, a lot of the biggest plays happen like that.
Right.
I don't have the stats, but I don't need the stats. I just know it.
You have the eyeballs that watch Patrick Mahomes do that.
Not just Mahomes. Not just Mahomes, John.
Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson.
Aaron Rodgers.
Why you're saying Joe Burrow will not be able to make any of those plays? I'm not saying he make as many as them.
What did anybody say that?
Oh, I thought you were being sarcastic. I just assumed your default is sarcasm. Okay.
No. Yeah. Did you listen to anything John said?
No. But okay, so look. So he can make something out of nothing. That's one thing. The other thing I want to say is this, John. People talk about his age. He's 32. But let's just keep in mind. Baby. This is what I want to say. He came in the league when he was 23?
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, that means something. and he missed like a season and a half. Like his body does not have the wear and tear of a lot of 32-year-old receivers.
No.
And with receivers after 32, I would say it's about the great ones. There's they can, some of them, like Jerry Rice was still pretty good, close to 40. I mean, he's like 1,000-yard receiver, close to 40. Tim Brown, and there's been guys, and that was a long time ago. So I think that the age, is over. I think they're making too big of a deal about his age. I don't look at the age. I look at how he looks, and they talk about his explosivism and his quick twitch. These are quotes from Alex Erickson. He says he gets in and out of the routes. It's awesome seeing him back in action. And people are just talking about, this guy does not look like the rest of us. We look like, we don't belong in the league compared to this guy. Yeah, go ahead, John.
In fairness, it's not like he was just doing nothing. He was recovering from, I think, his third foot injury in the past 4 years. Yeah. I think that's where that comes into play. The older that he gets, the less likely he is to recover in a fast and quick manner like he has been doing in years past. Now, last year was obviously awful because it took him months and months to recover from that ankle injury. Right. But the older that he gets, the harder
he could have been back. He could have been back before.
There's a conspiracy theory, John, that he didn't want to come back.
No, John, you don't think if he would have come back the last month or so, if everything?
But why come back to a team that's tanking?
I'm sure he could have, but he might not have been 100%.
Yeah,
that's true.
And why would he really?
Exactly. I'm saying it's nice that he hasn't had a lot of hits taken on him in the past 2 years, but it's not like he was just kicking his feet up and letting his body just not go under any stress. He's still going under the stress of training and recovering from those injuries.
But John, I thought it is the game and the hits and all that kind of stuff that wear your body down more.
Absolutely, but also the injuries. The injuries do have a part in that too, obviously, and he's been injured a lot.
Yeah,
I don't like where this conversation is going. I'm just trying to say, look,
I'm giving another perspective here. I'm giving. I don't
know. I mean, I'm open to debate. That's what the show is about. But when it comes to AJ Green, I'm not interested in hearing the other side. To be honest with you,
I'm not sorry.
I'm not sorry for splitting. I want to see AJ Green extended now. Honestly, whatever
it can't happen.
I know. I'm just saying
they have to see. They have to make sure that he's okay. But I mean,
technically, it can't even happen now. The deadline passed.
The deadline passed too. I mean, that's the other thing.
Yeah. You know what else the deadline passed for, guys? The deadline passed for this show. Now, don't worry. Well, okay. No, sorry. Yeah. No. What I mean is,
can I just say, Daddy? I mean, there is so much to be excited about this year.
Right.
And we don't even get into it enough on the show. There's so much excitement in the air at Bengal Stadium. You mentioned before, the guys were in pads. We haven't had tampons in the locker rooms forever.
But August 17th, they will get the pads back. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, things are really the gender equity, the forward thinking.
Is he? I didn't hear that part of it. I think pads is something football related. John,
do the pads go under the cups then? Is that
well actually, John, they are wearing bras.
Let me just say, as a male identifying person who does not menstruate, I cannot say what it's like to be in that position. But I'm just saying the team is moving forward. Zach Taylor is an innovator. He's forward thinking.
He is the younger guy.
You're talking about pads. No, that's the wrong type of pads.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, they are wearing the bras, John, and that is I heard it so they don't get too close to each other. And so we know whenever somebody, so if somebody takes someone's jersey, they don't mix up the bras, or I don't know. But look.
The bras are called catapult, which it helps them catapult down the field. It gives them a speed boost, actually.
Oh,
wow.
That's fascinating.
I've been wearing catapults for about 15 years. I have to.
Right?
Yeah. But look, guys.
Things fall out.
Here's what I want to talk about. Yeah. Okay, so look. This show, as you know, is a YouTube show, DHS Sports, but is also on Cincy Jungle podcast channel. Now, recently, this podcast network has a lot of stars, NFL players. It's called the Believe Podcast Network. They reach out to me. They say, look, we have filled the NFL shows with podcast hosts for almost all the teams. We've been saving the last one, to get the biggest name, and we just have one left. And we wanted to be you and Hoji to do the Bengals podcast.
Yeah.
And I said, let me talk to my agent. Let's go over the numbers, all that kind of stuff.
Didn't talk to me. Notice, John, he never talking to me was not part of it.
No, I didn't have time. They only gave me like 2 weeks to decide. And so I was like, okay, let me look into it. And then I said, I think I can do it. And so they said, okay, so tell me about your show. And I said, well, it's the #1 Bengals podcast. And then he cut me off before I could say hosted by puppets with foreign accents. He said, that's good. #1 Bengals podcast. And that became the name of the show. I just said, fine. So that became the name of the show. And we have a meeting this week before we launch the podcast. I assume they're in Los Angeles. We're in Los Angeles. I assume it's going to be in a mansion. I don't know, Hoji, do you remember when we first got to LA, we were invited to that guy's mansion? And I think it was a very hot day because people weren't wearing a lot of clothes. And
yes. It was very awkward. You and I were wearing clothes. He was wearing a robe.
That's right. I think it was a breakfast because he was wearing his morning robe, is a red robe. And I imagine the Believe Podcast Center, all the hosts were going to get together, something like that, this week. So you can.
So we're moving. So it's a really exciting moment for the show because we're moving to a new platform. Yeah. And this Believe people, they seem to be legit, but Lord knows, hopefully, they seem to be nice people. And the show is going to be called the #1 Bengals podcast, even though it's not the #1 Bengals podcast.
Hosted by public with foreign accents. Yeah, if you add that condition.
Yeah.
It's got the little asterisk next to it.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But we believe this is going to work on Believe. So we want you guys to believe it too.
Yeah. I mean, most of the podcasts, I think, like Believe Chargers, Believe in 49ers, and they're hosted by some really great people. I mean, the KO Spikes has his own show. A lot of great NFL players from the past and us. So I don't know how that's. I don't know. Maybe I didn't fill out my resume accurately. Maybe I mentioned a little football experience. I'm not sure, but somehow, they offered us the show, and we are going to be on that show. But you can always find us on YouTube as well.
And we'll still be here.
Yeah, and for those of you saying, "Hey, can I still support the show financially?" Yes, you can still do that. You can do that on patreon.com/DHSports. You can become a patronizing person. Yeah. Or you can come here and become a member of our channel, get a 1 cent discount per tier of all these options. Yeah.
Wow. So generous.
Thank you. And so that is, so don't forget to subscribe, all that, turn on notifications. Make sure, leave some comments, guys. I'm not seeing a lot of comments these days. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for John Sheeran and
that
Oji Director Kismoji, I'm Daddy McDook. We will see you next time.
Next time.
DT.